Imagine a quiet house in the very early morning. The sun has not yet come over the horizon. The air is still and cool. A person stands in a kitchen. They place a large pot of water on the stove. They turn the dial to a high heat. Then they wait. They look into the water. The surface is perfectly flat. There are no bubbles. There is no steam. Even though the heat is pressing against the bottom of the metal, the water looks exactly as it did when it was cold. There is a simple desire to understand why things do not change right away. Most of us want to see the results of our efforts as soon as we begin. We seek clarity on how our time is being used. We want to know that the energy we are spending is doing something useful. However, a soft intellectual confusion often occurs here. This is the conflict of overestimating the short term. A person might look at the pot of water after 1 minute and feel a sense of friction. They know the heat is on. They know they are doing the work of waiting. But because the water is not boiling yet, they might think the stove is broken. They might think their effort is being wasted. This happens because our expectations are often based on intensity. We think that if the heat is high, the result should be visible instantly. We forget that most systems have a growth cycle. This cycle is governed by the laws of physics and time. Think back to that pot of water. This is an analogy for how progress works in the early stages. For a long time, the energy is entering the system, but the state of the water does not change. Beneath the surface, the molecules are moving faster and faster. The temperature is rising from 40 degrees to 50 degrees. Then it rises to 100 degrees. To the observer, there is no difference between 50 degrees and 100 degrees. The water is still just a pot of quiet liquid. If the observer only looks for the boil, they miss all the progress happening in the middle. They overestimate what should happen in the first 5 minutes. They expect a total transformation before the system is ready. In reality, the work is happening internally. The foundation for the change is being built where it cannot be seen. We can observe this scale of movement through a simple math example. Imagine a person who is tracking progress over 10 days. This person expects a linear result. They expect 10 units of progress every single day. In their mind, they see a clear path. By day 10, they expect to see 100 units of change. Now imagine the actual system follows a doubling pattern. On day 1, the progress is only 1 unit. The person feels a sense of disappointment. They expected 10, but they only have 1. On day 2, the progress doubles to 2 units. They are still far behind their expectation of 20. By day 3, the total is 4 units. The person looks at their goal of 30 units and compares it to their 4 units. This is the moment where most people overestimate the short term. They see a gap of 26 units and assume the process is not working. But the system continues to function. The doubling continues quietly. On day 4, it is 8. On day 5, it is 16. By day 8, the total has reached 128. Suddenly, the actual result has moved past the original expectation of 80. By day 10, the total is 512 units. The long-term result is 5 times larger than what they first imagined. The scale of the change at the end is massive. Yet, for the first 3 days, it looked like almost nothing was happening. The educational takeaway is a sense of calm clarity. We can accept that the mismatch between effort and results is a natural part of time. Progress in the early stages is often structural. It is the heat rising in the water before the first bubble appears. It is the doubling of a small number that has not yet become large. Understanding this helps us look at the beginning of a task with a quiet mind. We can see the 1 unit of progress and recognize it as the necessary start. We can observe the stillness of the water and know that the heat is still doing its work. We do not need to feel friction when the results are not yet visible. Clarity comes from knowing that the scale of the long term is built on the quietness of the short term. We can observe our own expectations with a neutral eye. We can see that the intensity of our effort today is a seed for a result much further down the path. This is the logic of how systems evolve. It is the relationship between energy, time, and change. By understanding this, we can view the early stages of any process with a sense of acceptance. The water will boil when it reaches the proper temperature. The units will grow when enough cycles have passed. The system remains steady. The math remains true. Disclaimer: this content is for educational purposes only, not financial advice.